Welcome to another fourth quarter clutch recording. Today we're doing the insanely close AL wildcard race. My name is Noah Weintraub, and with me, as always, is Brian Zeigler. And earlier today, actually, what just happened, the Kansas City Royals defeated the Cleveland Indians 6-2, which dropped the Cleveland Indians to fifth place for the wild card race, and the Yankees, because of a tiebreaker they owned, 6-1 over the Cleveland Indians, they move up to fourth place. Brian, what are your thoughts on this insane wild card race?
This is the closest wild card race I have seen in years. Okay, this is ridiculous. Uh, with 17 games left, I mean, we're looking at schedules. We got a whole bunch of different things that factor into who actually wins this. But right now, I mean, barring injury, I have to say barring injury, because there's been about a million. I gotta say the Yankees have the best chance right now, just because of the combination of strength of schedule, and what they've been doing, like their offensive weapons that they added recently. They've really pushed. As long as their bullpen can stay together, I gotta put the Yankees at the top of that list. Mostly because Tampa Bay and Baltimore just have ridiculous schedules coming up. Both teams playing Boston. I mean, Baltimore's got 6 games against Boston still. So I mean, this is looking really bad for Baltimore. That's for sure. I got them at the very bottom of possibility of going in.
Initially, I agreed with you about Baltimore being toward the bottom, but then I remember something that happens every year. When a team typically clinches a division, they do not try as hard down the stretch and they start playing prospects. The final 3 games of the season for Baltimore are against Boston, and Boston should easily be able to clinch the division title by then. I could see Baltimore sweeping that division as Boston just rest their hitters, rest David Ortiz, rest Victorino, rest Ellsbury, rest Mike Napoli. So I will say that Baltimore does have a tough schedule, but I don't think it's as tough as we initially thought it is.
Yeah, but I'm still going to say that they're still going to start a lot of their big time pitchers. I mean, Buchholz just came off of the DL. He's pitching phenomenally, and they're going to want to get him some solid starts. So I bet you they're still going to start Buchholz in that game, and good pitching is going to cancel out those games too. I mean, they could easily just shut down their offense in those 3 games and finish it off solid.
But you could also see the Red Sox just give Buchholz 1 or 2 more starts. I actually see Boston only giving Buchholz 1 more start and then just making sure that he's healthy for the playoffs. There's also that argument. Do you want to take a chance in him possibly getting hurt again?
Um, I think he'll be fine. Basically, I'm thinking it takes more than 1 or 2 starts to get him back into the situation into the actual major league baseball situational hitting situations, and also pitching situations, and also with it being going into the playoffs, especially against some tough teams. They probably want him to be in that tough situation, want him to have one of those really close division games to see how he's going to do in a close situation, and I think he's going to come through.
I will say right now, I see 2 series that are going to determine the wild card race. The first one, although it's the Toronto Blue Jays, the Yankees have struggled at times versus Toronto, and they
Yep.
do have a 3-game series following the end of this series against Baltimore. They have 2 more games, then a 3-game series against Boston, and then a 3-game series at Toronto. And the first game that's listed on on ESPN.com is Andy Pettitte versus R.A. Dickey, and R.A. Dickey has had mixed success against the Yankees. And I think
It's true.
that the Yankees have to take at least 2 of 3 against Toronto. Otherwise, I see Cleveland winning the second AL wildcard spot. And then
Plus,
the other
that's a
series,
hard field to play on. That's not an easy field to play on. They've actually had a lot of problems there and had some pretty bad injuries at Toronto too. So I mean, like I said before, barring injury, which on a field like that, there could be some serious problems as far as health goes.
And then the other series I see being huge is the Indians versus the Royals. They just finished a 3-game
Absolutely.
series, and the Royals took 2 of 3. But that was at home. The next one is going to be starting September 6th to the 18th. They're going to be in Kansas City for a 3-game series. The first 2 games are Scott Kazmir against Jeremy Guthrie, and Corey Kluber, who's pitched pretty well off since he's gotten off the disabled list, against James Shields. And for the third game, who knows? It could be Ubaldo Jimenez. And then for the Royals, it could be someone like Bruce Chen or who knows who else. I see the Indians having to take 2 of 3 of that series. Otherwise, I see the Indians being in a lot of trouble down the stretch.
Yeah, it's going to be. This is going to be an interesting finish up for the Indians because they have out of all the teams in this wild card race, they have the easiest schedule. I mean, they got 2 series against the White Sox and I think a series against Houston, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I mean that's just wow. I mean those are 2 teams that are completely out of it at the bottom of their divisions. I mean, at the same time, they could be thinking, spoiler. They want to be that team that knocks a team out of the wild card race. So, I mean, this could be this is still really really tight. No, what's your rundown? What's your top 3 possible chance teams that are going through? What's your top 3?
I'm saying Yankees are 1A. I'm saying Indians are 1B. I see it being like neck and neck down the stretch.
Nail biter, yeah.
I see Tampa and Baltimore being really, really close as well. Even though Baltimore does have a toughish schedule down the stretch, I do see them being able to take advantage of Boston resting players because they do have 2 series against them, and Boston should be able to clinch the division within the next week or so because that's how bad the rest of the division has played this year. So,
well, I think the rest of the division has played really, really well. Just Boston has separated themselves as far as talent goes, and the other 3 teams have just sort of knocked each other around a lot. That's what I think it is. I really think that's more of what it is.
But I mean, just looking at it, Boston's up by 8.5 games. There are 17 games remaining. Typically, Boston has 16 left. Boston plays 2 more games against Tampa in the series. And so if Boston wins both games, which I expect them to win at least one with Jake Peavy and Ryan Dempster going, that makes the lead 10.5 games, 9.5, 10.5 games with 14 remaining. And Baltimore doesn't have to play Boston right away. I could see Boston starting to rest players during that September 17th, 18th, and 19th series in Fenway.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, it just in general, the AL is really, really close. So maybe they go for some extra. So maybe they end up having to play for home field advantage in one of those in like that second round or something. There could be an outside chance of something like that where they end up having to play just a few more games solidly to clinch one of those home field advantages or something like that. My big thing, man, this is such a tight one because of that Toronto series with the Yankees. I think that makes it so close. And the only thing that's getting it for me is that tie between the Yankees and Cleveland. That the Yankees actually take that one. So I gotta go with just barely Yankees taking it against Cleveland. But that is, I mean, let me go get a coin. I gotta flip a coin for this one. You know what I mean? It could be either one. It's that close. But I gotta say Yankees, Cleveland. And then I think probably Kansas City, just because they're on a tear right now. They've won 7 out of their last 10, so I gotta go with them third for that.
I will say these AL teams are loving having Houston in their league. Here are the list of some teams and how much they've dominated Houston this year. Oakland Athletics 15-4, Uh, Texas 14-2. Even Seattle 10-8. Yankees only play 3-game series. They're 2-1. Baltimore 4-2. Boston 6-1. Detroit 6-1. Cleveland 2-1. Kansas City 4-2. The only team that has lost their regular season series so far to Houston are the Angels, and they're 7-9. And the White
Wow.
Sox are 3-4. And that's it. Everyone else has beaten them.
Wow. Well, there's a reason why Houston is not doing real good. We're not. There's a reason why we're not talking about them in this AL wild card race, or are we? No, we're not.
And also, a stat I just saw, which gives Baltimore a pretty good shot. They are 7-6 this year against Boston.
Yeah, still, that means they could lose a few of those games. That would be key. That could be key games. 7-6. That's nothing great. And
6
Boston's
games
been
left. They don't.
playing really amazing baseball lately. I mean, they've been hitting home runs like they're hitting softballs. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Well, also think about it. If there are 6 games left against Boston, which Baltimore has, and they win 3 or 4 games, and they take 2 games against Tampa, and they take 4 of 6 against Toronto, or 5 of 6, that could be enough to sew up a wild card spot.
My big thing is that they're really not playing good enough right now to convince me that they're gonna beat out Kansas City for it. Kansas City could start slumping, of course, but that's why I got them as my third team as opposed to my second team for Kansas City, because Kansas City's they've been on a tear, and they don't have a real tough schedule right now for the rest of the season here. But they could easily start slumping, or just a couple of rough games or something like that. They've got a little bit more ground to work on to make up than some of these other teams. But that's why I got them just above Baltimore, because Baltimore has such a tough schedule and Kansas City is on a tear. So we'll see what happens.
I think the key down the stretch for Baltimore is going to be pitching, and for the Yankees, it's going to be that bullpen.
Absolutely.
That's going to be the huge factors.
Yep, totally agree.
And that's the end of our AL Wildcard video. I'm Noah Weintraub, and that's Brian Zeigler. And tune in for an NFL one, which we will have up on the website very shortly.